when we think about our minds can only handle so much. There's only so much. If you have so much going on, you have somebody is sick and you're worried about them. You're not feeling well and you're worried about you. You don't know, should I get the vaccine? Shouldn't I get the vaccine? Do I have COVID? Don't I have COVID? I'm worried about my mother. I'm worried about my father. I'm worried about my boyfriend. I'm worried about my best friend. I'm worried about my girlfriend. All of this, all of these thoughts in our mind, they take up a lot of space in our brain. And when all of our space in our brain is used up, there is no space left for ourselves. It's all used up. You've used up 99% of your brain worrying about everybody. So how much is really left to even take care of yourself? And that's one part of what we need to talk about. That self-care, what is it? It's making space in your brain. You're making room in your brain. You're opening up your brain so that you're not all trodden down and all blogged up and all filled up with stuff that is just taking up all of your brain. So self-care is not selfish. Self-care is about, why are you taking care of yourself? You're taking care of yourself because if you take care of yourself, then maybe you'll have space to take care of others. If you don't take care of yourself, there just is no space. So very often when we talk about self-care, we talk about something called mindfulness. Now, what is mindfulness? It sounds like, oh, mindfulness means I have to be thinking about something. What does mindfulness really mean? And mindfulness is a form of self-care. So how does mindfulness work? It works as follows. Something happens. You've got so much going on. You are so stressed out that thing happens and that's your trigger. You just go nuts. You go crazy. I mean, honestly, all of us have it. It could happen to me as well. This weekend was a very, very stressful weekend for me. I had a lot going on. Besides having my children, my grandchildren, which I love, I had to be taking care of my elderly mother, who is very unpredictable these days. And this particular weekend, she really needed a lot of care. So when a glass of grape juice fell down on a very expensive carpet, right? All of a sudden, I could have started, oh my gosh, look at that. The grape juice fell down, started blaming. Natural thing for people to do, right? They lose it. They automatically lose it. But what does mindfulness mean? Pay attention. Mindfulness means you are aware of what's going on. You are aware of your feelings and you talk to yourself. You're mindful. You have enough room in your brain to talk to yourself and say, I am very angry right now. I'm very angry. I'm angry that the grape juice fell on this very expensive carpet. I'm very angry that all these people are in my house and they're taking up all of my space. I'm very angry that I don't have a minute to myself. I'm very angry. And in my anger, my mindfulness, I'm mindful and I say to myself, I'm very angry. Well, I'm very angry. I'm going to start screaming at everybody and I'm going to be screaming and yelling at everybody. What does mindfulness mean? It means you are aware of what's going on. You stop, you say to yourself, well, I'm upset that the grape juice spilled. But in reality, I'm just upset about all these responsibilities that I have. There's so many people relying on me. There's so many people that need me. This one needs this one needs that. And in my mindfulness, right? I recognize my feelings. I say to myself, oh, yeah, I may be upset that the grape juice fell, but is it worth screaming at everybody? Is it worth it? Is it worth everybody having a miserable day, a miserable Shabbos, everybody feeling like, oh, let me run away from this table. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be around somebody that's so upset. Isn't that what happens all the time when we lose our temper or when we lose it? We don't think about, why am I losing it? That's called mindfulness. I'm losing it because I'm upset about grape juice. because that's what I do. Or take another example. Forget the grape juice. You're driving in your car. Suddenly somebody sideswipes you. They come right up to you, and sure enough, they just go ahead of you. If you're not mindful, right, you'll get very angry. What do? You start chasing them. You start screaming at them. What are you doing? You drive like a maniac. But if you're mindful, you say to yourself, okay, I'm really upset. You talk, it's self-talking. I'm really upset. I really am angry at this person and I'm going to start screaming, but I'm going to make a complete fool out of myself. What is the outcome? What's the benefit of me losing it? That's called mindfulness. Mindfulness is a very big form of self-care. How is it self-care? Because you're the person that knows yourself best. You're the person that can talk to yourself and say, I know I am upset. I know I am really angry. I am really angry because this thing happened, but I'm going to lose it, but I don't want to lose it. I don't want to look like I'm out of control in front of my grandchildren, in front of my boyfriend, in front of my girlfriend. I don't want to lose myself. So in your mindfulness, you are doing self-care by what? You're sort of stroking yourself. You're validating yourself. I understand, you say to yourself, I understand that you're angry. I understand that you lost it. But is it really good for you to lose it? What is the outcome of it? The outcome is just going to be that you're going to be upset. You're going to be embarrassed that you lost it. And everybody around you, oh my gosh, what are you doing to everybody around you? They're done. They're going to run away from the table. They're going to run away from you because they don't want to be around you when you're angry. So you didn't take care of yourself. You weren't mindful, but in effect, you actually intoxicated, you made toxic other people. You infected other people with your bad energy. So part of self-care, one of the ways of thinking about self-care is by thinking about something called mindfulness. And mindfulness just means you're paying attention to your feelings. You're paying attention to what's going on for you and why you are losing it and what's triggering you and how can I stop this triggering from happening. So that's one part of self-care, mindfulness. Now let's address the other part because I see there's a lot of guys here. Let's address the part about, do men need self-care? What does self-care mean for men? Maybe, some men, they don't want to get into this mindfulness thing and think about and get really into their heads and think about, okay, why am I losing it? I'm losing it because I'm upset at my girlfriend or I'm upset at my mother. They don't, some of our men, they don't want to be doing that. So what does it mean for a man to do self-care? So Shlomo, my husband, who was a real man, he was a man. How did he do self-care? How does a man do self-care? For a man, self-care very often means just stepping away from what their reality is. It's a diversion. I'm very stressed out by work. I'm very stressed out that my financial situation is not good right now. I've got a lot of financial problems. People are relying on me financially. And with this COVID situation going on, my finances are just really, really difficult. So very often, men, they need to do self-care. Manicure that may not work for them. What may work for them? Stepping away from what their regular situation is. And for a man, that might just be, well, for Shlomo, his self-care was, believe it or not, Rabbi Katzin, you're going to love this. Shlomo's self-care was really about doing kindnesses for other people. That was his way of de-stressing. If he took himself out of himself and started focusing on other people's needs and giving to other people and realizing, wow, these people have real concrete problems. Maybe I can help them. Stepping away from his problems and stepping into their problems and helping them with their problems, that was his way of self-care. He didn't have to think about what he has going on in his life. Instead, he was thinking about, how can I help this person with what's going on in their life? And by doing that, that's a form of self-care. Why? he's making room in his brain. In his brain, he's not going to be obsessing about what he has going on for himself. Instead, he's getting busy with giving other people. So what was one of Shlomo's things for doing self-care? He loved going to Russia. He loved going to Russia to do bris milas with his bris milah rabbis. And they would go from Kiev to Azerbaijan to all of these little places where it was illegal actually at that time to even do bris milas. And he would wiggle his way through and manage to, the bris kit had to secretly be taken in, and he would manage to do brisim. Why was that self-care? That's self-care because anything that takes you away from what is going on for you in your head, anything that takes you away from what's going on for you in your head, that's considered self-care. So people who are runners, what's the self-care in running? They're running and running and running. And after a while, the endorphins take over and they're not in their heads anymore. They're busy with the running. For me, my self-care is swimming. Why does swimming work for me? Because in my swimming, there is no phone. Nobody can reach me. My brain is just being cleaned out. There's nothing, all I hear is the swish of the water for a long enough time that by the time I'm done swimming, after my hour of swimming, I don't even remember what was bothering me, what my brain was full of before I hopped into the water, which is amazing because I do remember before I got to the pool thinking, oh my gosh, I can't even swim. I have so much on my mind. How dare I even take a few minutes off to go into the water? But all I remember after swimming, similar to people who are runners, similar to people who are bikers, all I remember is that I had a bunch of stuff in my head, but I don't remember what it was. I don't even remember. My brain is completely cleaned out. So I think that for self-care, it's very important to recognize that it's not selfish to do self-care. Once you do self-care, what are you doing? You're opening up space that you could be helping other people. When you're not doing the self-care, what happens to your brain? Or what happens to you? You are so filled up with stuff, so filled up with toxic thoughts, with worries about your parents, with worries about your friends, with worries about your finances, with worries about school, with worries about when COVID is going to end. All of these worries, you're so filled up that you're like a car that has nothing left in it. You're running on empty. There's nothing left to give because you have given it all out. You are just, it's over. There's nothing left to be giving anymore. You have emptied yourself out.
Can I say one thing?
Sure. Oh, yes.
Chaya.
How are you?
I didn't rename myself, but yeah, it's Chaya. I just wanted to say one thing that I found worked for me, because I find that like self-care, such as like the things that were previously mentioned, are very difficult to do when a person is in a state of like, whether it's turmoil, despair, like overwhelm and all of those things. Like, it's hard to even reward yourself with those things. I think like for me, just sitting in silence for 5 to 10 minutes a day and meditating silently has been a lifesaver. And like, I think also it's like a regular thing, so it's something I can do in the moment, because sometimes you need to step away, like you were saying your husband steps away, but step away and do what, like, so I like, for me it's like I will just pray or talk to God or say a 12-step prayer or something like that, and like do something constructive.
I love that. I love that. I was actually thinking that that the truth is nobody is an expert on self-care. We're all our own experts. So I love what you're saying, Chaya, because in your own self-expert, you know that for you, what works is just sitting in silence. And I think that I love it. I love it. And that, for all you know, and for all I know, and probably I'm guessing that what you're saying is resonating for a lot of people. Like, maybe I could do that. Maybe I can sit in silence, and it works. And
Like
for some people, sitting in
I
silence,
also pay to read, but I mean, like in the moment, like my regular routine is full on self care, but like I do the whole like nails, hair, painting, reading, journaling, all of that stuff. But in the moment when I just need to like step away from a situation, what helps me immediately, I can't go swimming or biking or journaling right away in the moment always.
yes,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Another thing that some people, believe it or not, I have a client who her self care, believe it or not, very simple, is to have a cup of tea. Having a cup of tea does it for her. She has a cup of tea, and it just, for her, my swimming is her cup of tea. Your sitting in silence is her cup of tea. Shlomo's running and doing bris milas is her cup of tea. So I think also very interesting to actually ask people, what is it that is your self care? The reality is, though, just to know that we all need self-care, and sometimes self-care is really just talking to somebody, being able for somebody to listen to you and to validate you. Sometimes self-care is joining a support group. Sometimes self-care could be exercise is a very important part of self-care. Sleep is a very important part of self-care. Food, eating the right food is a very important part of self-care. I want to add on though, because I would like to take it to another level, even a level above, more than just self-care and just getting yourself on equal ground. What about actually getting yourself to a happy place? How do you do that? I think that playing music and dancing to music by yourself is a great form of self-care. I think turning on funniest videos and looking at those can take you to another level of self-care. Um, Taking a walk outside can be a form of self-care. Enjoying nature is an incredible form of self-care. If you can get yourself out and go for a hike, if that's, I understand that, yeah, on a regular Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it's hard to do because we're working, we have obligations. But if we ever have that opportunity to take 4 hours and get away and be in nature and look at trees, even if they're bare, or really tomorrow they're expecting snow. Well, why not, when the snow starts in the morning, before the traffic ends up making it all brown and slushy, why not go out and be like a kid and hold your hands out to the snow and say, I love this. Isn't it amazing how children can just take so much joy out of things in life like snow? They turn everything into playful, fun kinds of things. Can we go back to that place? Can you leave everything alone, even if it's only for a little while, and let yourself be a playful person? And because if you can get that smile going inside of you, that smile is completely connected to other people. That smile will make other people smile automatically. A smile is very contagious. Just like bad energy is very contagious, a smile is contagious. If you smile, it automatically gives someone else a reason to smile also. So being around people that have like good positive energy is also a really very important thing to do. And self-care is just, it's really important, whether it's self-care through exercise, whether it's self-care by turning on music, whether it's self-care by by just sitting quietly someplace, like literally just sitting in quiet and not going into your head. It's an amazing thing to do. And it is such an important thing to do. It's so important for us because in order for us to move on and not be paralyzed by sometimes we get, I think, Chaya, what you were referring to before is really a form of paralysis. We're so stressed out and things are worrying us so much and there's so much going on that we get so paralyzed that's even difficult to think about getting on a bike and doing exercise, going for a run. It's actually difficult to do that because you feel literally paralyzed. And the self-care opens up a space for you. So I thought I would love to hear from people here, if anybody minds and wants to share, what is your, you don't have to say your name, but what is your form of self-care? What do you do for yourself? What is your form of self-care?
I can start.
Okay.
I think my self-care is like when I really need to block everything out, I just sit down and watch Netflix.
Yeah, you know what? That is fantastic. I agree. I don't know how many people here identify with that, but guess what? I totally identify with that.
Yeah, I'm watching Stranger Things right now. Well, not now, but
Yeah,
May I make a comment, Dr. Faye, on that?
please.
I think all of us, all of us do that in different forms. So someone once said to me, he said, if you're not gonna take care of yourself in a healthy way, you will face unhealthy ways like watching videos or just like escaping. So you better take care of yourself in a proactive way. So in other words, I would say better go and swim, because otherwise you're going to escape in different ways, because whatever you need, your body or your psyche will demand it from you and will get it from you.
Yeah,
So
really true.
better make a conscious decision what is your healthy self-care should be.
Yeah, right.
Also, like I've also tried to like escape into like movies or books, but I find like that just gives me sometimes something else to think about and worry about. So like I don't know.
Yeah. You know what I want to add on? I love what you just said. I'll tell you why. Because sometimes I find, guess what? One form of self-care may not do the trick. Like this morning, I woke up, I was literally, I call it being all juiced out. I was literally, there was nothing left for me to give this morning. So first I tried the nature thing. I thought that was going to work. It didn't quite do it. Then I thought I would talk to a friend of mine and I thought that that would bring me back up. And that didn't work. It took me quite a while until I managed to get myself back up. But I think we have to accept that about ourselves. There's a lot going on right now. There is so much going on. So if one form of self-care doesn't work, don't get hard on yourself and say, oh my gosh, I'm a total loser. It's okay. Move on to the next one. Little by little, you will get there. You will, if you just keep trying, you will get unparalyzed and then move. Look at me now. It's 8 o'clock at night. Rabbi Katzin, tell the truth. Did I text you this morning and say, I don't think I could do the class tonight? That was it, Rabbi Katzin. The reason I wrote that was because I thought I just have nothing left to give. And little, as the day wore on, it worked little by little by little.
Dr. P, also maybe another comment. On one hand, I heard that the research was made, and if a person can make just one healthy habit that leads to many other healthy habits and choices, it is actually physical exercising. So if you begin with physical exercise, it improves your sleep habits and your dieting and everything else. Like if anything, like get on the bike, what you do, or go to swim or go to run, because that will put everything. So this is one way. But at the same time, in a spiritual sense, what I heard, and I wanted to mention from Reb Simcha Zissel from Kelm, he said that the reason why Moshe Rabbeinu became such a great leader is because he had the quality of seeing and feeling the suffering of people of his generation. He was noise be'ol. He was carrying the burden of other people. Chofetz Chaim said, you need to make a choice. If you're not going to carry the burdens of other people, you will anyway will carry the burden, will be carrying the burden of yourself. So make a choice. So it's better take care of others. Reb Simcha Zissel of Kelm said, when you're gonna take care of others, Hashem will give you so much strength and so much power. He will give you as much as you need to take care of others. So sometimes what you said about your husband, Zichrona Lebrocha, this has really resonated with me, because maybe that's the secret of yours, actually. Because you said, I can't, and then you did it because you were thinking about others.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that everybody should realize that no one has it easy. You know, even, I mean, yeah, I woke up this morning. I said, I can't. I just can't. There was a part of me that just wanted to hide under my blanket and say, I'm not, you know what? I'm not getting out of bed today. I'm not doing it. But then I did. It's like what you said, Rabbi Katzin. It's about doing one thing and then next thing and the next thing. And I think in the same way that one positive step leads to the next positive step, I think we have to realize also that one negative step leads to the next negative step. And you choose that direction. You can make a decision. You know, you can decide which way am I going to go. Am I going to go toward the positive and work my way up inch by inch, millimeter by millimeter, tiny baby step by tiny baby step? Or am I going to take that step downward and go down? And I like to think that hopefully I will always try to make that movement in the right, in the upward direction. Because in reality, what you're saying is true, Rabbi. I know that there are so many people counting on me. And because they're counting on me, I feel like I don't have a choice. I have to move in that positive direction. So imagine if all of you, if everybody here starts thinking of people that are counting on them. Think about it. Think about people that are counting on you, people that would love to hear from you. That also is a form of self-care, because by thinking about giving to others, you are really, really taking care of yourself. It's a give and take.
Dr. Faye, just maybe again, from my limited background, sometimes it's good to choose with joy and happiness something that you must do. Otherwise, when you have no choice, that creates a sense of I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So sometimes we need to feel I do have a choice.
Yes.
And I choose, because if you have no choice, that we feel like slaves.
Yep. Yes.
So this is really your area. So how I think very often the feeling of I'm overwhelmed is mental. It's not even physical.
Yeah. However, yeah, the overwhelming feeling is very, very mental. And that mental overwhelming feeling can paralyze us from moving forward physically. That's where we run into a problem, because we feel so overwhelmed. We feel like, oh, I'm paralyzed. I just can't. You know that feeling of, I just can't. I can't. And sometimes we need to force the I can't and say, okay, let me just do something. Let me just open the window. Let me just get some fresh air. Let me just take a step outside, and not make it a giant step. Just make it a little step, a little tiny baby step. But even that little tiny baby step, it will lead to another baby step. And that's why I think that exercise is very major. I think sleep is very important. I think eating the right foods is very important, because that also helps us a lot. And breathing, just breathing and connecting to other people. And as much as, you know, sometimes when we're feeling this way, like we don't want to touch the phone, we don't want to hear from anybody, we don't want to speak to anybody, I think sometimes it's very important to reach out, you know, even though it's so hard, just to reach out, even if you're just going to pick up the phone and start crying. It happens. Sometimes we go through such difficult times that all we have the energy to do is just call and then start crying and say, I feel I can't do it. I can't do it. And knowing that somebody else is there listening to you is also a form of self-care. Yeah. So anybody want to add another idea? Emily, thank you for your idea about self-care. I love the Netflix idea. Anybody else?
I can share. I think one of the things that that I actually like to do, I find that getting out of the house or out of the environment, going outside, I think that's probably one of what does it for me. Like I'm in a terrible mood until, you know, we go outside, we start walking around, and like I've always found that, like if you go on a trail and you're surrounded by, like, you know, trees and nature, it's just completely changes. You kind of forget, like you said, what was just bothering you so much, and you're just like, oh, it's so peaceful out here.
Yeah. Yeah. A change of environment is so major, even if it just means putting on your headphones and starting to walk, but moving away from that place where you were feeling totally paralyzed, you know, and then suddenly, hey, look at me. I'm walking. Hey, look at me. I'm actually, did I even catch myself smiling at that person? You know, and sometimes like you amaze yourself at how much forward movement you've had, you know. And I think that being part of this group, you know, also knowing that we're here every single week, knowing that I'm waiting for you, I'm looking for your faces, I'm looking for you, Steph, and I'm thinking, and you know, all of you, and I'm thinking, you know, like I can't wait to see those beautiful faces, those smiling faces. So I think we have that kind of synchronicity, and I think that that's very important. Knowing that somebody is there, looking, somebody is thinking about you is a very nice feeling. Yeah, anybody else have something that they do for self-care?
I'd say the rage classes.
That's your self-care.
Yeah, the mental one. And hey, going to a spa,
Yeah.
going to Shabbaton a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
You
want to know something?
Yes, promote.
I'm telling you the truth right now. I cannot wait for the Shabbat. I just cannot wait. Yeah, because it's my self-care as well. And it's been like a couple of weeks, you know, and the connecting over there, the feeling like that we're all together, it's an amazing feeling. So I can't wait. I don't know how many of you are coming this week, but I'm really so looking for, actually, it's going to be a celebration for me because Friday I'm doing my second shot. So Friday I'm getting my second vaccine shot. So on Shabbos, like I'm there, I'm celebrating. Yeah, I'm very excited about it. Thank you.
Go hard, Dr. Faye.
Thank you. Yeah, more forms of self-care.
I think it's nice to write things down just to get it off your mind and to a piece of paper or anywhere outside of your body.
Excellent. I love that. I love that. The idea of writing things down and journalizing them is an amazing, amazing thing. It's amazing. Once you get it down on paper, it's amazing. It's sort of like it's been exercised out of your body. You know, like it's not in there anymore. And now it's on the paper. I don't own it anymore. I don't own my misery. The paper owns my misery. And I can take the paper and rip it up, and that's it. My misery is over because it was there. It's not here anymore. So I love that. I love that. I love that. Irina, I want to ask you a question about the journalizing. Is part of it the writing it? Do you have to save it to read it over again later? Or is it just like writing it and it's on the paper and I'm done with it?
I think it depends. Sometimes I write it just so I could kind of get it off my chest and then reread it when I'm more calm or when I'm more, you know, when I'm more into the zone of like reflecting. And sometimes I'm like angry or upset and I want to forget something. So I write something down like I'm venting to somebody and then I like rip it up or whatever and then I discard it.
Yeah, those are two different things. One of them is writing down your feelings about what's going on. I'm feeling this, I'm feeling, and the other one is writing a letter to the person that you're really angry at and saying, "Dear so-and-so, I can't believe you did this to me. I am so angry at you. How dare you? I never want to talk to you again. I hope you jump off a bridge," some horrible things, but it's only on the paper, which is really great because you got your feelings out on the paper instead of directly to the person. I love that. Thank you. I love that. Yeah, great. Anybody else have some great ideas for self-care? Painting. That's great. I know we did that on one of the Shabbatones, where we brought in some
the hand
ceramic things
criminals.
for painting, and it was so incredibly healing because you feel like a little kid when you're painting. And something about going back to being a little kid is very, it just feels very pure. It feels very real in a way. It's like it feels like a safe place about being able to, paint or play a game or color by numbers. I know it sounds so ridiculous, but I have a client that does that they do the oil painting by numbers, those silly little things, right? And they find that incredibly healing.
I
You know?
started doing acrylic paint pouring over quarantine, and now I sell my art.
Oh, yay. So maybe we could see some of
Oh,
it.
so you're profiting. That's cool.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, one thing I did when I was younger and something I'd like to get back into if I actually had a big space. I used to do puzzles, and like I used to do those nature like puzzles, or puzzles that are meaningful to me.
Yeah.
Like I have a frame of the Twin Towers, the whole New York skyscraper with the Twin Towers, and you can't find that anymore. And I think another thing that's therapeutic is pottery. I know people do pottery.
Yeah. Yeah. And these are all like they really work. It really does work. I love the idea of doing a puzzle. I love that. Right now we're running
Especially on Shabbat.
you know what? Let's put that down. It's such a great idea. I'm actually writing it down. We're doing a program now. Some of you, I think, volunteered for it already. We're doing a program for Holocaust survivors. And since a lot of the Holocaust survivors have been locked in their homes and have been so isolated, we managed to get iPads for them. And some of you Ragers have volunteered and are going to the houses of the Holocaust survivors. And one of the things that they're doing is they're doing a couple of things that you would think, that they're so, they're for children, but they make them feel so good. So one of them is actually doing a puzzle. And one of the puzzles is the Israeli flag. And for them, that's very, very meaningful for the Holocaust survivors. And it's not a 1,000-piece puzzle. It doesn't really matter. It's a small little puzzle, but that is self-care for the Holocaust survivors. Because just think about it. So many of them are so traumatized about what happened to them during the Holocaust. But if you think about the year that Israel became a state was 1948, at exactly the same time that a lot of the Holocaust survivors were actually leaving and escaping to America, to Israel, to different countries. It was in 1948. That was just around, like, right after a lot of the liberation. And for them, the Israeli flag is so important to them because it's the same timing as the end of the Holocaust and the beginning of the Jewish state. So I do think that puzzles are a really nice thing to do for self-care. The most important thing to realize is that when do you need self-care? Self-care is when you are just depleted. You just have nothing left to give. You're running on empty. Everything around you is just making you angry and upset. You're not smiling anymore. You've just I love that smile. I'm looking at you, Steph. It just feels like there's nothing left to smile about. At that moment, that's when you have to say to yourself, I need to do something that is for self-care because I need to get my juice back. It's like a car that's running on empty. It needs gasoline. It needs to be recharged. So your self-care is recharging of your battery. It's a way to recharge, whether it's through Netflix, whether it's through a cup of tea, whether it's through swimming, whatever it is that recharges you. And of course, in a healthy kind of way, that's the direction. And sometimes it really is just moving from one space into another space. So does anybody want to add on to this?
Usually when you grow up, they kind of give you like coloring books so you could like color because that calms kids down and like gets them just, relaxed. So I noticed that in the past like year and a half or 2 years, now they have adult coloring books
Right.
Mm.
because like a lot of people are anxious and paranoid now because of Corona and they don't know what to do with themselves, or even like apps now. And they have like the coloring ones which relax adults now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you want to know something? I think even the smell of those Crayola crayons, because they have that certain smell. Those Crayola crayons. I
Get
think
back to
even
the
just
good
opening
times.
up that box of Crayola crayons and just starting to color takes you back to a place of a certain kind of comfort. And that anybody can do that, to pick up Crayola crayons and just color in a coloring book. There's something about it that is just so peaceful and feels like, oh, okay, you know what, I can do this. And after coloring, that may be your form of self-care. But again, everyone's self-care, it's very personal. It's a very personalized self-care. What works for you, it works for you. And that's the one you should use. It doesn't mean that that's the same self-care that works for, for some people, it really is just about reaching out to another person, reaching out on the phone. For me, that one doesn't really work. For me, it's about my own self-care. I kind of have to figure it out by myself. I kind of have to listen to music, find the music that really works for me. I may have to listen to a tape. I may have to go on a TED Talks and listen to TED, believe it or not. Sometimes listening to a TED Talks about being down and being depressed and how to get out of it, that might get me out of it. So
how are you not in a TED Talk? I'm sorry for interrupting, but I'm just kind of wrapping my head around how is it that you and Rabbi Katzin are not in a TED Talk that I haven't seen yet? Sorry, you mentioned it, and I just had to ask because I'm in awe about that.
We're doing TED Talk every Monday at 8 p.m. Dr. Vedas.
yeah, this is our TED Talks.
We can get you a virtual background that shows the TED screen in the back.
Yes, I'll do that for next time. Tonight I actually decided to be real, so you're in my room with me. You're in my house. I usually have a virtual, but tonight I decided to open up. But this is our TED Talks. There's nothing that feels better than doing a TED Talks to our own personal people. There's something very, very special about that. It's also, you have to realize we operate differently than regular secular people. We operate on a different level because at the end of the day, when I get to a point like this where I'm back to being myself, but I know what I was like in the morning. Guess what? I open up my prayer book and I pray and I say, thank you so much, Hashem. Thank you, God, for giving me the strength to be able to move from that place to this place. Thank you so much, because there are people that can't move from that place. They stay there. And so for us, we're on a very spiritual level. It's not just about us. It's about us, what we give to others, how we are thankful to God for giving us the power. I don't say it's my power. I don't say, oh my gosh, Dr. Faye, you are so powerful. This morning you were there and you were texting Rabbi Katzin and you said, I can't do it. And look at you now, the all-powerful one, you did it. I don't say that. I say it's not because of me. I say I say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God, for putting me in a place where you have given me this power, this personality. You have given me this to allow me to be on tonight at 8 o'clock. And here I am, and I'm so happy to be here. So this is our TED Talks. So I think it goes a step above TED Talks. I think it's Rage Talks.
Dr. P, since you mentioned the Holocaust program, we will hear you on Wednesday night.
You will hear me on Wednesday night.
About the Mauthausen, story, which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Which I believe it is the Holocaust Memorial, yeah?
Yeah.
That's the day.
That story for me, Rabbi, is just such an amazing story. The idea that this grandchild of Nazis is actually there in Mauthausen till today. His name's Daniel, right? Daniel is still there trying to repair the harm that his grandfather did. It's an amazing, amazing thing for
Dr.
me.
Pei, but even more than that, he's there as he testified in front of all of us because he saw the gravestone of your grandfather who died there. And I think Viktor Frankl wrote about finding meaning in suffering. So even in such a tragic event as dying at Mauthausen and having a gravestone there, you see a person who was affected to the degree that he transformed his life to dedicate to fighting anti-Semitism.
It is amazing. And sometimes when I think about it, you know, and I think how sad it is that my grandfather didn't survive to get to see his grandchildren and all of his descendants, because there are so many of us. I think to myself, but you know what? Because of Daniel, because of the guy that's at Mauthausen, because of him, I learned that that was the time that my grandfather needed to die. That was his time, because the fact that he's there, buried in Mauthausen, the fact that he's there, that gives reality. The fact that his tombstone is there with his name on it, that gives reality to the fact that the Jews were killed in Mauthausen. So it gives it such, in his death, he gives so much meaning to what it means to be alive, what it means to be, you know. So
Interesting idea, Dr. Faye. Jonathan Leader, who we're gonna meet him on Wednesday, he actually asked, can we interview Daniel as well? So maybe an interesting way to connect to Daniel and to bring him back to give a more in-person testimony, because whatever he said then, it was just a few moments. We can make, if you have his address, maybe we can make like a Sunday program, especially with him, and asking him to share his life story and his experience.
I am almost 100% sure, I'm looking right now, that I do have it, that I have Daniel's contact information.
Would be fantastic.
Do you want to bring him on this week on Wednesday night?
That's what they offered. If you can, it's difficult timing, but even if it's impossible now, we can specially make a program with him.
Okay. It's a great idea. Yeah, I have a lot of the people from Mauthausen on my contact information. So let's talk about it, Rabbi. I think it's a great idea.
You're talking about Mauthausen Russian group. You're talking about rage group.
No, I actually have a lot of people at the Mauthausen concentration camp.
Really?
I work there, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I have, yeah, we should talk about it. Yeah. So that's Wednesday night? What time?
Well, we have a flyer. I think I sent it to you, and we will, coordinate.
Right. Right. So if anybody wants to hear about the Mauthausen story, we'll be on Wednesday night. Yeah.
Actually, 8:30, Dr. Faye. It begins. Oh no, 1 second. 5:30. My apology. It is 5:30. The beginning. There is a program. We need to find out. I think we should speak to Dina and Jonathan Leader to discuss the program. But yes, it's going to be an amazing program.
Okay. Okay. So the exercise of the week until we meet again next week, this week, is focusing on self-care. Whatever it means, whatever your self-care is, but it's about focusing on self-care. And I really believe that I think that there's a light at the end of the tunnel that we're at right now. It just really feels that way. Rabbi Katzin, your wife flew to Israel, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
So that's a really big deal also. There are people flying back and forth.
Yeah, and my son is already back. Not only he was supposed to be 2 weeks, but he was only 10 days. It's already passed, and tomorrow he's going back to the army.
Wow.
After 10 days quarantine.
How? I heard the airport were closed.
Yep.
I guess not. Yeah.
Since today, I believe everything is totally closed. Until then, people were able to travel. But we hope it's the last time and hope that everything will reopen.
Yeah. Okay, so we are good. It was wonderful to see everybody. Does anybody want to add on anything? Let me just check in the chat and see what's there. And what about overdoing what's healthy? That's a question. I'm not worried about that. Oh, here. Oh, but there's the explanation. I'm not going to say names. I mean, becoming almost obsessed with something to the point of negative self-talk and destruction and unable to function when not engaged in that activity. That is a very good. Very interesting. Here, exercise is great for self-care, but if we don't actually deal with the actual underlying root cause that can cause internal struggle or challenge, then it's easy to use the exercise as an escape, meaning it's great, but sometimes it can make a person forget to deal with anything underlying that could be present for us as well. I think that's a brilliant thing to say, that, yeah, the exercise is good for detoxing, but not for escaping reality. Thank you. Yeah. I think self-care is just about making space in your head so that you could be thinking clearly. It's not about escaping reality. It's about just making space so that you can deal with reality. So I think that that's a very, very important part of it also. And yes, they're very good ideas. Thank you. Good. All right, good. Okay, good. We're good, everybody. We're good to go.
Thank you so much for this class. I feel like it was really needed.
Oh, good.
Thank you so much.
Good. I'm looking forward to whoever comes up for Shabbat. And whoever doesn't, we'll see you next week, Monday night. Good night.
Thank you so much, Dr. Faye. And Wednesday
Have fun
night.
skiing, Dr. Faye.
I'll see you
Have
soon.
fun skiing.
Oh, yeah. No, I actually had to cancel.
I don't know if you saw the
Yeah.
But you saw my comment, right?
No, I did not. I'll look now.
Oh, okay.
Oh, your comment here on the chat or on our WhatsApp?
No, it was in the group, but
okay, I'll look. I'll look.
All right, it's okay.
So much going on over here. Okay, we'll see you all.
All the best.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.